You are now watching Music the Lifeblood's Conversations from the Pit.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have tuned yourself into another episode of Music the Lifeblood's Conversations from the Pit. I am your very humble host, Dustin. Join with me, as always, Music the Lifeblood's own man in the field, Mr. John Carter. Carter, how are things?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm sweaty.
Okay.
I'm hot. I'm hot today for some reason. So,
all right.
All right. So, Carter, second episode back. New year, obviously. We're still in January 21. If you're watching this 10 years from now, hi, welcome to the thing. I've been thinking about this a lot. Just because of the last 10 months and what we've been dealing with as far as COVID and all of the shenanigans and horse shit that's came along with it. So I'm going to put this to you because you're still an active musician. You're still out there doing the hustle. I have long since retired because I just cannot stand to deal with drummers. But here's the question. Riddle me this, Batman. How do bands move forward in this situation that we're in 2021 and potential more COVID or shit coming? How are bands going to continue to be bands?
You know what? I was thinking about that not too long ago. And the one thing that I noticed is it differs from state to state, you know, as to like, who's allowing what, you know what I mean? Because it's like, I live in North Carolina, and like South Carolina, at least parts of it that I know of, like Charleston, for example, is wide open. My band got offered like 4 shows from about December to March, and it was weird because I know some bands in South Carolina that aren't playing shows, that are viewing things as if it's totally shut down. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And North Carolina, I know that there are like some clandestine shows going on here and there, some invite-only things going on, you know, some skate park shows, backyard party shows, and stuff like that. But for the most part, the venues that are basically, you know, worth paying attention to for good shows coming through are still not doing anything. They're doing like, you know, punk rock karaoke, you know, trivia, stuff like that. Things that aren't going to have sweaty people on top of each other kind of deal, right?
Sure.
But the thing of it is, I honestly think it's going to depend on the state, because even back in Iowa, where I'm from, the governor lifted the ban on sporting events and like entertainment, big events and stuff like that.
Sure.
I don't know if that's going to trickle down to small club shows and whatnot, but she's getting a lot of crap for it. Some people think it's irresponsible, that, you know, people are going to get sick, and some people are like, okay, hell yeah, because South Dakota has been, in comparison, wide open as well, and you know, they're not too far from each other. So to be honest with you, I kind of just think it depends on what you know, what scene you're part of, you know, and in what town, because there's some people like in, you know, in South Dakota and Iowa that are like, well, fuck it, let's do this, let's play shows, and then they're getting judged by people in their scene. And as you know, as we all know, the hardcore scene and the punk scene is going to have people that are going to be social justice warriors for either side, you know, and you know, people are going to get, yeah, it's really, really great, you're going to play shows, but you should be ashamed of yourself because you want to play shows. You should be miserable, and you should be hiding out. So I think going forward, I really kind of think that what I've seen in North Carolina is when a mandate gets set in place, within a couple weeks, people are like, okay, well, fuck it. You know, it's like, people get excited and pissed off for about 48 to 72 hours. And then about 2 weeks later, you realize the person at Walmart's not bugging you for a mask anymore. You know, just people aren't really, you know, adhering to the mandate anymore and stuff. We've got a curfew. and the bars have to close at 10 o'clock around here. So of course, you know, you really can't, if you want to like play music on a patio in the backyard, you know, of the bar or whatever, they do that kind of stuff from time to time, but still it's got to end. But I think going forward, I honestly don't think that music as a whole is going to suffer, because there are people that are doing the live stream shows, which me personally, I'm not too into, but I do respect people that do that. You know, there's also people that have kept their brands going via podcasts and blogs, and just there's a lot of people I know in bands, various bands that had tours planned that got canceled. And so they just sold all their merch online, and they're doing really well with merch sales, and they're making new content, and they're contributing some of the merch money to different charities and being socially active, you know, obviously with the other things that are going on besides just COVID and stuff like that. So I kind of think, in a weird way, or it's going to sound weird anyways, bands that are socially conscious, bands that are multimedia, and bands that already kind of have a legacy are going to be fine. Newer bands that maybe started up pre-COVID, like right around that time, or people that started bands during COVID are going to have a little bit harder time, because it's hard to really build your fan base simply just online when you're new. Yeah. So what's going to come down to is I've seen some people just give the fuck up and like, oh fuck it, we're done. And people, you know, I see their stuff online selling their gear. People just like, fuck it, I'm done, or whatever. You know what I mean? And it's you know, we've all heard it. You know, a lot of bands have closed up shop because of it and whatnot. But like I said, I think that the bands, the bigger bands, the bands that kind of have like a bigger kind of following, bands that are social, you know, I hate to say it, politically active. You know, we try to stay the hell away from anything political on here, but I really, really do think that like there are bands that if they are as a band involved in with either side and what's going on, they're not really cashing in on it, but they're getting active and they're trying to do their part and showing, hey, we're public figures to a degree, and this is how we're giving back to this, you know, this cause or that cause. Sure. So, I mean, I honestly diversify, you know, it's like the Paul or the Gene Simmons mentality, you know what I mean? It's just kind of like, yeah, you know, you're not going to be able to do this forever. So diversify, and you might find something that can grow out of it. You know, hey, I've got all these tentacles. This one tentacle is bigger than the others, and I'm going to go this route. I've seen people do that, you know, I mean,
the term omni-channel. Yeah, you know, a band that can manage and produce content via a bunch of different avenues, that sort of thing. So yeah, we do. I mean, you mentioned it. We tend to stay away from anything political, at least on, you know, conversations from the pit. But, you know, if you're a longtime, you know, fan of the Music, the Lifeblood podcast, I think, you know, everybody knows, you know, how I am. You know, I'm definitely libertarian. I tilt conservative on some stuff. And you, I mean, you know, I've known you for a while. You know, you strike me as uber libertarian. Leave me alone. Let me do my thing. You can do your thing. You know, I think we're both that, and both of us are kind of at the tail end of Generation X. You know, so we, you know, I sometimes wonder if it's just because it's a generational thing. But the thing I keep thinking about is that, are we ever going to have shows again? You know what I mean? And I feel like we will, because I just don't think this is going to last forever. You know that I can't tell if I'm being hopeful or just naive in that regard, because like I said, it can't last forever. This can't go on for, you know, for the end of eternity. Eventually things will go back to normal, but is going back to normal going to be within a threshold of, you know, before bands reach the threshold that they just can't sustain anymore?
Well, you got to ask yourself too, when you ask the question, are we ever going to have shows again? It's kind of a broad question, because there are shows going on. Florida is wide open. There's some of the bands that my band is label mates with are in Texas and Florida, and there's shows going on now. I did see one of them that said at the bottom of the flyer, "This is a seated event. Masks are required." Blah blah blah. And then there are some shows that I've seen people posted footage of where it was just kind of like you saw maybe of the 100 people in attendance, 3 masks, people just saying "fuck it, we want it back to normal ASAP." So it's like when you ask the question,
hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. Like you said earlier, staying away from the political thing because you know, I think I think it's probably good for the show for me to not go on a rant. You know what I mean? I think it's good for this show, maybe not one of the other shows, Music of Lifeblood, but all you know, political shit aside, whether it's good or bad that they're having shows, I just want to I wanted us to be able to have a discussion to see, you know, kind of where we go from here.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. So so that said, keep going.
Well, yeah, okay. I mean, very, very good point. And because it's just, I think there's people that want to do shit, and you know, they're going to do shit whether they, you know, are able to, or whether it's legal or not, whether they're shunned for it or not, you know. And I think sometimes it's a tough spot to be in, because it's like, okay, we can do this show because we just these guys that are out there that I just want to play. Okay, well, here's the thing, you just want to play, but if you're going to spend hours and hours, you know, and hundreds of dollars on doing a band, having an online presence, having merchandise, writing music, getting together with other people, whatever, what is your goal with music, right? I'm sure everybody has different goals, you know what I mean? Like, you know, back at, you know, like, you know, Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley are famous for saying, okay, you do a band to get women, you know what I mean? And then you get like MTLB-ULTRA, you do music to make a change, and, you know, and get your point across, whatnot, you know. And then you get people that, like, you know, that are just like, I do music for me and nobody else, blah. So everyone's got a different reason for doing music, you know. So it kind of comes down to like these cover bands that I've seen do these shows in these bars around here with nobody in attendance. Like, everyone is literally outside in the beer garden outside, or whatever you want to call it, and there's a band inside playing the hits of the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Nobody in there but the bartender. People come up to the bar, get their drink, and go back outside. Right. And it's just like, is it kind of one of those deals where it's just like, are you that desperate to just play your instrument in front of other humans? Or do you love the way playing music with other people feels? Or do you like just sitting on the edge of your bed and fucking wood shedding some riffs? You know what I mean? Like, why do you play music? And with you talking about, like, you've had some bad experiences, you're tired of dealing with drummers, you've had some things happen with you, you know, and our experience in music is quite different. And I'm not saying either one is either good or bad. It's just like, I've toured the country 3 times. I've worked with some fucking people that I really respect and looked up to, and had some really, really great experiences. And so I kind of think that's, you know, why I'm somewhat of a lifer, because I've done things that I become addicted to the way certain things feel with playing music, right? So it's just kind of like, you know, there's that kind of thing. Everyone's got their different perspective. And when someone's in a band that said, well, fuck it, COVID hit, we can't do anything, so let's just fucking end this band. Well, it's just like, well, were you even into it in the first place? Or, you know, what was your reason for doing it? And I think kind of what it really comes down to is, what the fuck is the reason for doing it? And is music going to be on a huge scale, like, you know, big fucking arena shows, like that big Motley Crue, Def Leppard, Poison thing that was supposed to happen, the Kiss farewell tour, you know what I mean? The big Lamb of God tour that was supposed to happen. All these big things that are run by these giant corporations, you know, and Live Nation and this and that, those things came to a screeching halt. But what I think is going to happen, and is already happening, even when things lift and get better, I think that the underground scene is going to become very strong. I really do. Sure. Because a lot of people have been networking through Facebook groups and through word of mouth. And there's actually, like, in Virginia, in Richmond, Virginia, there's a guy that books shows there, and he does it at a few different venues. and he advertises that there's a show, says you go get your tickets at such and such place, like a record store or whatever. You get your tickets, then there's a phone number you call on that ticket, and he will tell you where the show is, and thereby keeping the riffraff out and keeping, the powers that be that don't want, shows to go on or whatever, or they want certain types of shows to go on and don't want other types to go on. So that was pre-COVID, and the guys had a lot of success with that. And it's kept the hardcore scene in Richmond, Virginia very, very strong. And I kind of think that in a weird way that is going to be more the norm in a lot of places. And I really think that the big thing that a lot of bigger bands are fearing and smaller bands are fearing at the exact same time is these venues go, okay, we can book shows. Okay, we're not going to book this for local bands on a Wednesday night for $5, and quarter beers. We're going to only book these ginormous tours that come through because the venue's got to fucking make money. So I think local bands and smaller touring bands are going to have a harder time booking shows because the venues that really want to capitalize on live music are going to opt for more of the sure thing, the better ticket sale, the better bar money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's going to happen.
Isn't that that's just sort of an extension of where we were at anyway?
It really is.
The pay to play trend is rampant.
Yeah.
Throughout second and third tier bands. It's just everywhere. It's everywhere. And I understand, like, we've talked about this on older episodes of the Music the Lifeblood podcast that, it's from a musician standpoint, it's real fucking frustrating. It's really frustrating. But from a promoter standpoint, who could be putting up a substantial amount of money to get to pay the guarantee for the headliner, to if it's a rented hall, whatever the case is, PA and all that other crap. I understand why promoters do that, but my biggest concern is the long-term life of what we would traditionally call independent music, the quote unquote underground. But the internet sort of leveled that, just kind of bear with me, using that terminology. But I'm more concerned about, we have a lot of bands, lower second and third tier bands that they're a working band and they need money coming in on the regular because that's their job. That's what they do. A lot of the bands I talk about on Vinyl Thursday are at that level. And if they're not doing something consistently, it's going to get rough for them. It's not with a band like, we always toss out those sort of old Megalodon bands all the time on here, Kiss and Foo Fighters and Queen and, just all of those bands that the money's not going to dry up, for them. But those lower level bands, it's what my fear is that they're not going to make it through their they didn't make it through last year, and they have no chance, no hope in hell to be able to make it through this year too. So I think you had mentioned live streams and, Kiss. It's funny because everything comes back to Kiss with you and I. Kiss did that the end of the year bash from Dubai.
You mean the infomercial, the Come Shop in Dubai infomercial that they did?
Yeah. Did you watch it?
I watched the fucking pre-show on YouTube.
Yeah.
And wow,
It's I'm sure they cut them some sort of a financial break to be able to do that. So the given some of some of the things you hear about Dubai as a country and how they treat some of their citizens, I'm a little, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's one of those things. But okay, man, you know, if that's what you want to do, go do it.
I might move here. I think I'm thinking of moving here. Me and Paul were talking earlier. I'm like, fuck, shut up. Really?
Right,
Yeah,
right.
no, you're not. You know, you're not.
Yeah, no, you're not. It's the you know, the live stream thing, because I watched Venom Inc. A live stream a couple weeks ago, and Venom Inc. is fucking tight. You know, Tony and Mantos, and their drummer's not Abaddon anymore. It's a newer guy, but
Josh Freese.
it's always Josh Freese, right?
Mike Portnoy.
I can't. Yeah. But the Venom, they were tight, and if you were just listening to it, that would have been great.
Awesome.
That absolutely would have been amazing. But the video, you know, because there's no production value to it. It's literally Venom just standing there playing Venom stuff. You know,
Down. I think Down and Crowbar did one recently. Obituary did one.
Right.
Obituary did like Slowly We Rot in its entirety, and like I love Obituary, but like I couldn't bring myself to watch it because to me it's gonna look like a bunch of dudes from, you know, the South, you know, in fucking like NASCAR baseball, you know, baseball caps and fucking, you know, baggy t-shirts rocking out in the garage is
Right.
totally what I fucking figured. It seemed like it was gonna. I mean, it was probably amazing. It was probably awesome.
Right.
Multi-cameras, but it's just kind of like, I don't know. I couldn't bring myself. And I know people that watch the Mr. Bungle Halloween thing, right?
Sure.
And our friend Eric Tran watched it and said it was amazing, but I just couldn't bring myself to watch it. You know what I mean? I don't. It's because I think
it's no different than the thing about it not being quote unquote live, you being in the situation of actually seeing the band in front of you play, you know, whatever it is that they're doing, is that all the other stuff that's happening in the live setting is it's all things that funnel into the experience you're going to have in tandem with watching and listening to the band.
Yep.
You know, the you know, being able to walk over to the merch table and look at what they got. That's not the same. It's not the same just pulling up their online store, you know, and looking at their Bandcamp merch, you know, that sort of thing. So there's something to be desired. Obviously.
Well, sometimes, the crowd is the show. Sometimes, man.
Sometimes,
and I'm not just talking about the bullshit hardcore horseshoe where where everybody fucking makes a fucking crescent moon, you know, 30 feet from the stage. I'm talking about like, you know, if somebody, you know, they hand the mic to someone, they sing along or whatever, or somebody, you know, says something back and forth to the guy on stage, you know, just there's shit going on in the crowd while the band's on stage that makes it fucking fun. And I mean, think about how many concert DVDs or VHSs you've seen over the years where they pan to the crowd. Yeah, because wow, look at what the crowd's doing. They're awesome too.
And that's ultimately with these live streams. That's what's missing. That's the sort of X factor that's not there. Now, that said, I think some bands lend themselves to being able to be perfect for that format. You know, bands with, you know, overtly techie and proggy, you know, notions about the music they write, like your Archspire or Between the Buried and Me. You know, if you can get close-ups of what everyone in Between the Buried and Me is doing, that kind of goes along with their fan base because they're all sort of jacked into that anyway. You know, they're a musician's band, so to speak. You know,
you know what that reminds me of real quickly is when bands, and I've been guilty of it too in the past, bands take promo action shots at band practice, not like on stage. Right. But like, this is the drummer like this, and the fucking the bass player's jumping, or the singer's like, it's like at your band practice. So it's just kind of it's cool that you're getting into it and you look cool in the posing, but it's just like, so I kind of think about that with like the live stream. It's just kind of like, okay, so if that takes over as the number one, people aren't going to look at a photo and feel what's going on in that picture, you know, like when someone's stage diving over someone's head or some shit, you know.
I just think I mean, it's obviously an imperfect, you know, medium for them to try to, you know, push whatever it is that they're doing.
Yeah.
That's what's so interesting about it, because I think it'll work for some bands, it won't for other bands. So I kind of wonder, you know, because we've seen that big explosion of bands just doing video blogs or video posts and
hey guys, it's your boy.
hey guys, COVID day number 300. Let me tell you about this chord progression. You know, it's all, and that stuff's cool. I think one of the, you know, everything's about Kiss with you and I. It's just always Kiss. But Bruce Kulick, you know, played guitar for Kiss through the 80s and early 90s. Bruce has been posting these videos to his YouTube and his social media of him just talking about significant dates or a guitar or whatever. And I love Bruce. Like, Bruce is one of my most favorite guitar players ever to walk the earth. He's absolutely incredible. But some of the videos, it almost feels like he's a teacher talking to a kindergartner. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He's very, like, his words are very measured. You can tell he doesn't want to be stuttering and stammering and tripping over his words. And then on top of that too, just the things that he emphasizes. It's so interesting because it's equally, it's like watching Mr. Rogers. It's equally wholesome, but equally wholesome and informative. You know what I mean? So
yeah, he's done awesome with it. I mean, I think his content has been fucking great. And what's cool is a lot. I mean, over the years, people haven't really gotten a chance to really kind of spend a whole lot of time with Bruce. They get snippets in interviews, and they'll refer to him here and there, and he'll pop up on some Kiss podcasts. But like, we're both big Bruce fans, and I haven't watched every single one of them, but I watched a lot of them, and it's cool because it's just sort of like you get a little bit of him growing up, and you're like, wow. I mean, dude, you just, like you said, he's very measured. He's just like he is a consummate professional. I mean, there's a reason why he made Kiss better when he played guitar for him, and it's just in so many ways, you know. And then on the flip side, you get Paul Stanley like locked up in his guest house, you know, with his stuff. Oh my God! Today we're gonna go over Love Gun, okay? You know, and it's just it was funny as fuck because it's just like after about 4 or 5 of his Instagram live videos, I'm just kind of like, dude, go outside, man, please. It was rough.
Right. I think I would love, Bruce is just one of those guys where, you know, you just want Bruce to, you just once want to hear him say like, oh, fuck. You know what I mean? Like, just sort of lose it for just a second, just a minute, you know, like drop a guitar, be like, oh, fuck, I can't, goddamn guitar broke, you know, and cuss for a minute. And then he's back to being, you know, professional Bruce. It's like high on my bucket list. See Bruce out of control.
Yeah, like yelling at his dog or fucking telling his wife to turn the TV down or some shit.
Right. Be incredible. Well, I think that I want, there's so many bands. I think it's almost there's a whole generation of bands that it's untapped potential, because I think the bands that will get the most traction out of doing stuff like making these social media posts and things like that have no fucking clue how to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Bobby Blotzer, you know, like it's always Bobby Blotzer. Like he ran a mutiny on Warren, Steven, and Carlos, and who am I forgetting? Oh, I got everybody.
Robin's
everybody.
Dead, so
right. But Bobby ran a mutiny on him. Was like, fuck it, I'm gonna go keep playing shows as Rat, and you guys are gonna have to fucking kiss my ass. Like, and lawsuits and all that stuff. Like, it'd just be great to get like Bobby Blotzer, you know, sitting by his pool and just be like, let me tell you about this time Steven was an absolute cockdicker.
Yeah.
You know,
See,
or just like a humorous anecdote, because you never hear that stuff from them. Like, you know, those bands, they're from that generation of bands where social media doesn't click with them.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
oh yeah,
and it's just lost potential. You know what I mean? It's
do you know who does it right? And this was pre-COVID, and he actually obviously kept it going or whatever. But like Zetro from Exodus, he's got a show on YouTube that's fucking awesome. It's really good. It's it's a talk show. He's talked to everybody from Lars Fredrickson, to fucking Rat Skates from Overkill. I mean, it's a really cool thing. And what it's good seeing older guys like that really embrace, what's available technology wise, online, YouTube, and everything. You know what I'm saying? Sure. And you're absolutely right. People do want to hear, hey, oh my God, you know what? On the Detonator tour, this and this happened, blah, 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 blah. Because podcasts are super popular nowadays. People want to hear people come on there and tell stories of back in the day. People are putting out books. And for these guys to go, okay, well, we're going to go ahead and bring you, Rat version 4.0 and 4.0 B and C and whatnot. And it's like, well, you guys aren't putting out any fucking new music at all.
Right.
So, and not everybody reads books. So if you gave us like a constant like update on what's going on and an insight to what's happening, it's kind of like, with that era of music, I think there's a certain element of kayfabe. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And I think that there's some older guys that are like, wait a minute, the whole time they said that fucking, that guy was fucking Stephen Piercy's brother. Turns out he was just the fucking manager. Well, we figured it'd make the story better because, again, Kiss were famous for telling a different version of history all through the 80s and 90s. I've got Kiss magazines that came out like in the late 80s, early 90s with interviews, and they tell the backstories or whatever. And then you watch, Kiss My Ass or whatever, that and Kiss Confidential or Exposed or not Exposed, but anyway, some of their later stuff like that, and they tell a different version of the story, and then you hear them talking about the same thing about 5 years ago, and then well, this is really what happened with Peter, blah 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 blah, and they were like doing the whole thing. Well, yeah, Peter and Ace were like best of friends. Yeah. They would hang out and do their thing, and you're like, just so. I think that certain people that worship these 70s and 80s rock bands, they're older fans. They don't want to see too much of the inside baseball, but at the same time they do. But it's the bands that don't want them to see the inside baseball.
Yeah, it's what I always call it, the Osbournes effect.
Yeah.
That the Osbournes, that reality show, demystified Ozzy. And after that, post the Osbournes, we think of Ozzy very differently.
It's easy to like Dio Sabbath better than Ozzy Sabbath after all that.
Yep.
Like for real.
Yep, exactly. So I think I saw, which is interesting because the sort of the biology of how social media works and affects people, social media, the vast majority of people on it, they cultivate a persona. They're cultivating a persona, and especially for young people, it's interesting. Persona is Latin for mask. That should tell you every fucking thing you need to know about how social media works. And I think, like we were talking about, there's Ozzy being demystified. A lot of these bands, like. There's certain bands that if they were to do it and just kind of let it all hang out, you know what I mean? Yeah. They lose some of their rock god power. You know what I mean? I remember after Lemmy passed away, Henry Rollins talking about one of the last times that he interacted with Lemmy, and I think it was from one of Henry's spoken word shows. Something I can't remember where I heard it, but Lemmy had invited Henry onto the bus, and Henry came in and hung out and visited for a while, and Lemmy was like, why don't you stay for a little bit, listen to some music with me, or whatever the case is. And Henry had commented like, no, I got to get going. And Henry had felt like a sort of like profound sense of sadness for Lemmy because he felt like he was seeing loneliness. And it's kind of that, you know what I mean? That it's always, I think for us, it always feels like a letdown when you find out your guy isn't a rock god. He's just sort of a, you know, just a regular dude. You know what I mean? But at the other, there's some times where that enhances things. You know, I think, you know, social media. It's funny because Glenn Danzig, his girlfriend, her name's Ashley, and I think she's Ashley Michelle Wisdom on Instagram. I don't know if it's Michelle or I don't know if that's a stylized version of Michael, because the bass player from the Bengals, her name was Michael too. So I don't know. But Ashley posted a picture of Glenn sitting on the floor.
Yeah, I saw that. By
the Christmas tree, wrapping presents. And he was barefoot, just fucking focusing on wrapping a present. And for me, I was like, you know, it gets posted in, you know, some of the online groups and things like that. And people kind of have their sport with it, you know. And, you know, I chimed in on it and, you know, I said, he's fucking in love. You know what I mean? He's a man just like anybody else. Let him do his thing. He's 70 years old now or whatever it is. He's worked his ass off. Let him enjoy his fucking hot girlfriend and hanging out with her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's sometimes it works in their advantage. Sometimes it works to their disadvantage. But I think moreover, sometimes the rock stars, the sort of internal bullshit that they have to get through to be able to be okay with it, doing it, and to you know, kind of let people peer in is, I think, the bigger hump for a lot of them, or at least with that generation of bands, because now we're full on into a couple generations of bands that has always had the internet around, and they know how to manipulate it really well. So you know, as it relates to how bands be bands going forward, you know, in this sort of, if the live stream thing is going to be something that they go with, some bands are going to have to put some production value into it, because you have the missing context of all the sweaty other people at the show, the pit, you know, people falling over the barricade and stage diving and, you know, fog machines and just all of that stuff, because that all adds up to something. You know, I watched a Skeleton Witch set from St. Vitus Bar. I think that's where they do the 2 minutes to late night. That's where they tape that. But St. Vitus seems to record most of their shows because it winds up on YouTube usually. But I watched a set from Skeleton Witch, and fucking tight. You know, the Adam lineup of Skeleton Witch is one of my most favorite bands ever to walk the earth. They sounded great. They were spot on. And then I immediately thought of going to see Skeleton Witch at the Hi-Fi here in Indianapolis with Jake a couple years ago. And I went, I don't want to watch that now. Because I don't feel the thump of Evan's bass, his Rickenbacker, or seeing Nate rock back and forth the way he does with his kind of big belly and his beard, you know, bouncing up and down. And Adam, you know, he looks like a Black and Thrash version of Jesus. You know what I mean? Like you miss out on all that. And I think for Uber fans, audiophiles like you and I are, I think sometimes it's going to leave us wanting, as far as watching them play music, you know, doing it in like a mock show setting, that sort of thing. But at the same time, too, I think that, like I had mentioned, the omni-channel approach, where you're putting out different, you know, prongs of whatever your thing is, whether it's like guitar tutorials or how I wrote this song, or check out, you know, how we recorded this, whatever, you know, whatever the case is. That's all awesome. But I think it always comes back to, because we listen to the bands we do because of the music that they make, you know. And if you can find a way to to get us pulled into that music via that omni-channel thing, it's gonna help bands survive. And I just don't see, it feels like to me, because we're in January 2021, we're locked into this shit for another little while, whether we like it or not, whether we agree or we don't, with what's going on. We're locked into this for a little while longer. And I'm starting to wonder if we'll start seeing streaming tours.
Yeah, and they've actually already doing streaming tours. There's actually, I've seen tour dates pop up online, and what's literally going on is these people have gone to a handful of different venues in different places.
Sure.
And see, what I was thinking about, what I've been doing is going on YouTube and watching the old home videos that bands would put together. It'd be like live footage. It'd be like, 3 songs, and then it would show like some backstage shit or some funny shit on the road or whatever. Like, I watched the Dismember DVD from like 2009. It was like death metal and mental illness or whatever it's called, and it's like the companion to the live concert that they put out, right? And people have argued that the companion piece with like the interviews and then the backstage fuck around stuff, it was really it's better than the actual concert DVD
Sure.
or whatever. And I thought about it, and it's just kind of back to what you said before. There's a whole experience of a show. You know what I mean? And like it's not just, okay, band starts now, we watch the band, their set's over, now we go home. It's like, you get there a little bit earlier. Like you said, you go to the merch table, and like the last show that I went to in March, the band that I went to go see was chilling at the merch table, and I was like, hey, I've been wanting to see you guys for a while. This is awesome or whatever. And I engaged with the band or whatever. They weren't like, rock stars or whatever, but just a band that like they were a group of guys that were in a band before that I really, really liked, and I liked their new project. So the singer ended up giving me the 7-inch of his old band, just the last one that he had in the merch box, and that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? And then like the banter that you have with someone standing in the crowd between shows, or like, hey, where are we gonna go eat after the show? You know what I mean? Or like, if you're gonna hang out with the band, fucking around, and like, you and I, we don't drink, but like the drunken shenanigans that go on like after the show and all that kind of thing. And that Dismember DVD that was on YouTube, it showed all of that stuff that you're missing out on. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And then I watched like Napalm Death, Live Corruption VHS from way back in the day, and that's just stage dive after stage dive after stage dive. And
it's like
you can smell Shane Embry watching that fucking thing.
it's like being at a Gorilla Biscuit show.
Totally, yeah, because like the British grindcore scene and death metal scene was very much like the hardcore scene back then. And not that I mean, not for nothing, but like a lot of hardcore shows that go on, it is all about that moment, that fucking moment. You don't have your phone. I mean, people, there's a certain element of danger with stage diving, some dickheads in the back wanting to fight for some fucking reason. You know what I mean? The singer being just as accessible to you as anybody else in the crowd. You know what I mean? I went and saw Judge and Youth of Today about, I think it was last February. And I got to meet guys that I grew up as a young person. I hate using the term worshiping, but really, really looked up to, that I thought I would never. I met Walter Schreifels from Youth of Today and Quicksand. I just walked up on the stage while he was tearing down his bass gear. I said, "Look, dude, Quicksand Slip changed my fucking life. Thank you for everything you've done, dude." And we had this awesome conversation. And Ray Capo from Youth of Today. I've always wanted to meet him. We had a good conversation, and it's just like, and Judge was playing that night, and Mike Judge couldn't be there because his wife was sick. So Porcel from Youth of Today and Judge sang the whole show. That fucking being there that night, witnessing hardcore history with Porcel singing for fucking Judge, you can't trade that for any fucking thing, dude. You know what I mean? And then the last show that I went to was Toke and Raw Hex in Wilmington. And you know, and Departed played as well, and it was just this great mixed bill show of, you know, blackened fucking death metal punk, stoner doom, and death metal, and it was fucking phenomenal. And it was just kind of like when I was watching that, you know, Napalm Death, you know, and watching that Dismember, it reminded me, it's just like there's so much more to a live show than just the band on stage.
Yeah,
hands down.
Would you? Because I keep thinking about bands doing, because you can't do meet and greets, but could you do a chat? You know,
they do that already. They fucking already do that, dude. Like dude from Stained, Aaron Lewis.
Oh, okay.
Right. He had one. Some guy was calling in on the Eddie Trunk show saying that his ticket for the Kiss in Dubai thing was $50, and a fucking online Zoom meet and greet that he got for a friend of his with Aaron Lewis was $75. What the fuck, dude? You're sitting there on Zoom, letting that, just talking, having Aaron Lewis talk at you on a screen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's bullshit.
Well, but it may not be to an Uber fan, an Uber Stain fan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, would you pay $75 to sit and bullshit with Ace Frehley for 10 minutes on Skype?
Never.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
You know,
or Bruce, would you pay for? I'd pay for Bruce for sure.
I would pay for a guitar lesson from Bruce.
Okay.
Not like, because you've heard these things called the cameos, right? Where people, you know, it'd be like a cameo. It's like, hey, what's up? Happy birthday, John. How's everything going? Hey.
Right. I think it. I mean, for some Uber fans, you know, for like a 16-year-old kid that's totally into that band, you know, that might be worth it for them. You know, when I was 15, 16, and somebody would have told me that you can get on, you know, you can have a video call with Johnny Ramone for $100, I'd fucking find a way to get that $100. You know,
I think you're right. Back then, pre-internet, I think to a certain degree, I think I've been desensitized to the whole,
because you have a lot of unfettered access to people via social media and stuff like that. Plus you also have 40 some years of road behind you. You know, that really kind of gives you perspective on whether that's a good way to spend your money.
Yeah, a 16-year-old kid talking to Ivan Moody for $75 on Zoom that has never been to a show in his entire life, that fucking loves Five Finger Death Punch.
Right.
That's probably the single greatest thing that's ever fucking happened to him.
Right.
And then in 5 years, he's going to be like, wow, remember that lame-ass fucking video call I had with that dude from that one band I can't remember? Since then, I've gone to fucking Coachella. Since then, I've started my own band, and I fucking met Dave Grohl, and he bought me a slice of pizza. You know what I mean? It just kind of, it goes from it only can progress from there if you really love it. So yeah, it has its place for a lot of people in certain times in your life.
Yeah. I think I mean I do too. I think of Doyle, Doyle the band, featuring Doyle Wolfgang von Frankenstein, on guitar, and Alex Story on vocals. But I think of Doyle the band because they do those meet and greets, you know, and I've been to a couple, and it was awesome. It was awesome. That's totally worth $50 for me.
Yeah.
You know, that is 100% worth $50 to me, and more than likely to the fucking Misfits or Cancer Slug Uber fan, that's going to be just as great, because the reason it was great is because it wasn't just sort of like a cattle call where they're shoving you through, you know, like an assembly line, to where you just sort of mill past the band as they're signing pictures and not even looking at you.
You're talking about the in real life meet and greets, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So if I'm that 16, 17, 18-year-old Uber Cancer Slug fan, having a 10-minute Zoom call with Alex, that might be huge. That might be huge for them. You know what I mean? And I try to, you know, because Music the Lifeblood, we sort of embrace the snob quality that a lot of us have when it comes to metal and punk rock, because we fucking make fun of bands. We make fun of bands, and we make fun of your taste in music, and we make fun of his taste in music. You know what I mean? That's part of the fun of being like a punk rock or metal fan. There's some,
and we make fun of the stuff we like. We make fun of our own favorite bands too. There's no sacred cows with us.
Right. Exactly. So look, for me, I wouldn't be embarrassed to say, like, if I could get on a Zoom call for 15 minutes with Glenn Danzig for $100. Yeah.
I'd turn into Chris Farley. Remember when you sang Green Hell? That was awesome.
Right. No, I know. I got my questions. I got all my questions ready to go. So I have a handful of things that I want to talk to him about. So I know what my first one would be. I know if I got more time, I know what the follow-up is. I know what the third one is. I know what the fourth. I know exactly. It's like checking off a grocery list. All right, I got that one in. Next one.
I would want a hug. If I saw him, I'd want a Danzig hug. That's the number one thing I'd want.
I mean, if some of the pictures that his girlfriend is putting up on Instagram is indicative of his level of cuddliness, I think it's possible.
You know what's funny? There's actually like an incredible amount of people over the years since I started really going to shows, like just really big time into it since I was like 16. I've actually hugged a lot of my favorite musicians.
Sure.
It's, if you really think about that, you're just kind of like, you see a friend, you walk up to a friend, you might do the whole, like, clasp hands, pull them close kind of deal or whatever, but I've actually had like people that I've, had the pleasure of meeting, in bands, just, hey, what's going on? What's your name? Blah, blah, and then just give me a hug or whatever. And just sitting here going, it's just so like, I always kind of think about sometimes, like, was there like a Highlander type quickening that happened? It's just kind of like, is that why I love music so much? To just kind of, hey, this, I'm going to go, this is why you love this. And I'm like, right. You know what I'm saying? It's just kind of like, and that's probably why I think the whole streaming thing, or an online phone conference with a person in a band is kind of horse shit from my experience, from what I've experienced in life. You know what I mean? Because it's just kind of like, I mean, there's people that I know that it's as weird as it sounds, that I've grown up with, that I've gotten to be good friends with over the years, that have done really, really good things and been successful. And they're just random dude that I've, probably, seen throwing up in a toilet or walked in on having sex with their girlfriend. But people worship. I know people that would die to know that person. I'm not talking super famous. Just people.
The thing to think about is that with stuff like paid Zoom calls and meet and greets and things like that, the thing to think about is that you've been desensitized, because you've had that experience over, and both of us have. Yeah. From the interviews I've done for Music the Lifeblood, in the Misfits, Danzig, Sam Hain realm alone, if me now would have walked up to 17-year-old me and just flipped through my phone contacts in front of me, I'd have a fucking coronary.
Yeah.
I wouldn't believe it. So there's you and I not being like, about meeting someone that, whose art we have high regard for. We're the minority.
Mm-hmm.
We're the minority. Most people don't get to interact with the musicians that they idolize. So it's a different thing. So desensitized, or you have a cynical streak. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's not overwhelming, but you have a bit of a cynical streak, and I think me too, to a degree, that we're like, I don't want to talk to that guy. Yeah. But for me, it's like, I remember being at a Danzig show 20 whatever years ago and seeing Tommy Victor, and I was like, hey, it's Tommy Victor. I'm like, I'll leave him alone.
Yeah. What would you say? You know what I mean? That's my thing. I've gone up to people when I was like in my, my mid to late teens at shows, and I'm like, oh, that's a dude in that band. I'm gonna go talk to him. I didn't have anything ready to say, and I remember I walked up to Henry Rollins. I saw Rollins' band and Tool at a place in Omaha, a small bar, and Henry Rollins was just sitting out on this retaining wall. Just nobody was talking to him. People were just kind of encircling, and there was like little groups over here, whatever. And I know that back in the day, he liked to just walk around and just meet people, in Rollins' band. I walked up to him and I'm like, so what book would you recommend first of yours? After I'd already read like fucking like 4 or 5 of them already. You know what I mean? And he was just like, well, what are you into? Whatever, what do you kind of want or whatever. And he kind of told me, you want to get pissing in the gene pool and blah, blah, blah. I remember a little bit, but it was in a weird way. It was a lame conversation, dude, because I led with a fucking totally mundane question. And I didn't want to, and halfway through the conversation, I'm sitting here going, I didn't want to hear him just talk about his books. I wanted to hear Black Flag stories. I wanted to fucking whatever. And it didn't turn me off on Rollins whatsoever, but I'm sitting there going, it's just kind of like, what the fuck's the point in meeting these people if A, I don't really know them, B, I don't have any super in-depth fucking like, I've always wanted to know this. Yeah, there are some artists like, I always wanted to know such and such, but I'm like, hey, look at, that's Rob Zombie. Hey, that's fucking Les Claypool over there. That's awesome. Cool. We're getting ready to see, or just some shit, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, well, I'm in the same room with this person that I have them on my wall. Right. To me, it's just because I've made an ass of myself, with different, people. Like when I was a teenager, right? I remember when I fucking first saw Sick of It All, and I went up to Craig Satari, the bass player, one of my favorite fucking bass players ever. And I remember seeing him playing bass for Agnostic Front about 4 years earlier. And I go up to him, and the album they had out at the time, Scratch the Surface, they worked with Garth, the guy who fucking worked with Rage Against the Machine, right? So he's just sitting on the side of the stage, and I'm just like, so what was it like working with Garth? And he's just like, whatever, and fucking got up and walked away from me. And I'm like, I'm never talking to another person in a fucking band, So it's just, but what's really cool though is over time, being in bands myself and kind of like touring and doing shit or whatever, I'm like, okay, hey, what's going on? I'll see fucking somebody from At the Drive-In, because they spend a lot of time in my hometown. We have a lot of mutual friends, and like I saw I saw Omar from At the Drive-In at a Melbourne show a couple of years ago. I'm like, hey, what's going on, man? Blah blah blah, and I asked him how his mom was and this and this or whatever. And I'm like, okay. And I thought about it, like, you know what? That's awesome. I got to see someone I hadn't seen in 15 fucking years. And I actually had a legitimate, I was concerned. We had a great, because we have a history, we've played back in the day, my old band, we played some shows with them and shit like that. So it's just kind of like, I wasn't fanboying, and that's where it hit me. I'm just kind of like, it's just a whole weird thing, because they are just fucking people. They are just,
and humans. That's the trick of it. If you want to have a good, comfortable, positive interaction with people, don't fucking freak out.
And the fact that they are just people kind of makes it like, well, I don't care. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
for me, more often than not, I was like, he's doing something. I'm gonna leave him alone.
Yeah. I mean, we got to play Locomotive Gun, Down to This. We got to open up for Soulfly when they were doing the Nail Bomb thing, right? Fucking amazing. I mean, Mark Rizzo was there, and he had his son on drums and stuff like that or whatever. I didn't get to meet Max Cavalera, I didn't get to meet, Mark Rizzo, but I got to meet his sons, Max Cavalera's son. Awesome kids. Hung out and talked to them for a long time about music and fucking stupid movies and shit. It was cool because it was a hang. They go on stage. I'm like, oh shit! I didn't know that was fucking Max Cavalera's kids. You know what I'm saying? Right. I like when an organic, meet, an organic meet cute happens.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's cool because it's just like.
And that's it. I mean, that's the thing. That's sort of that's the thing about, like online meet and greets. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not. It's just. Is it an acceptable substitute? It probably will be for somebody.
Yeah.
But I think the key would get the band to, because their time, part of their job is sometimes interacting with fans, to make sure that they're getting the fan is getting the most out of their time, that the musician is getting the most out of the money.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. Because you can't you wouldn't want to get on a Zoom call with Max Cavalera. You get 10 minutes with him and you'd be like, so how come you and Andreas don't like each other? It's gonna go south. So to make sure that you're gonna have a good interaction, just sort of a good rule of thumb, whether it's on the phone, a video, or in person, is just don't act like a spaz.
Well, the number one thing is you need an icebreaker, right? You need some kind of reason, because I've gone up to people that I've always wanted to talk to, or just people that I just respect or whatever. And if I don't have a fucking icebreaker other than how's it going, man? You know what I mean? It's whatever. Right. Like, it's funny because as a guy that I know that he did an online guitar lesson with the guitar player from Fear Factory, not Dino Cazares, but Christian Wolbers or whatever his name is.
Oh, the other guy?
Yeah. The other dude. And he said, it was awesome because he gave him a good lesson, but then all of a sudden they started bullshitting and he was opening up about all this fucking stuff that he should not be telling a random person online about Fear Factory. Right. And he goes, dude, he fucking told me this, and this. And I'm just, if that's cool. He had a jump off point with a guitar lesson, right?
Right.
I don't want, because these rock stars or these people that do cameos or do these online things, they're so used to people going, dude, your music changed my life. I was going to commit suicide. Then I listened to fucking, Destroy Everything. And Hate Breed was there for me when I almost killed myself. Jamie Josta hears that shit every fucking day. He's got people with their fucking lyrics tattooed on their arm, this, and this. And it's just kind of, I guess the reason why I'm not down with it is because I'm sitting here going, it's just like, unless I have something of value to offer the other person in the conversation,
yep,
I'm not going to fucking bother. They're not going to give a fuck about me.
All musicians and fans, they all look at it differently on both sides of the coin. But
yeah,
I think I remember the first time I came into contact with Doyle, and he was on the phone, and I was just walking by, and I looked and I went, "Hey, that's Doyle, without makeup on, in sweatpants, and I went, "Hey, Doyle, what's up?" And just kept going because I knew. You have to be able to gauge if it's an appropriate time to go
exactly.
And most people, because their oh shit meter flies into the red, and they go, oh my god, this is going to be my only opportunity. Be like, well, maybe it's not a good.
You don't want to be they call them punishers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's funny because it's just kind of like you hear these stories about the guy that just happens to get backstage with such and such band, and he's the Punisher. That's just kind of like, just won't leave the guy alone. And these people that are fucking doing these online or these Zoom meet and greets or whatever, they're taking the risk of a Punisher. But you know what? This motherfucker paid me money to ask me bullshit questions and punish me for 15 minutes. So I have to endure it because I'm not playing shows. I got to fucking pay bills somehow. So go ahead and ask me the same question about such and such song over and over again.
If they have a refund policy, maybe it's time to kick it in, Yeah. I think it was funny that you mentioned that, the guy on the call with the Fear Factory guy, saying oh my God, he, let the floodgates open on some stuff. I've had that. Doing interviews, I did one a couple years ago, and there was a big oh shit moment in there.
I know exactly what you're talking about. You still haven't told me what you heard, by the way. So for the record,
yeah, but it was a big one. It was a big one, and we just kept moving, just kept moving. And I was like, okay, writing a note about that down, and I got to the video, the editing it, and I said to myself, I'm gonna take that out. I can't comfortably leave that in. That's gonna cause a problem. So yoink, take it out. So I can't imagine if you were doing Zoom calls with fans and just So you get the musician on a bad day and he, maybe had a couple drinks and he lets something fly, and then all of a sudden, Metal Sucks and Blabbermouth have something that you don't want them to have at that time. So
God, imagine a cameo with Rob Flynn or something. You know what I mean? That fucking he would just wow. I mean, yeah. He would go on because I mean he's notorious for being extremely candid. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I mean, and like I said, that maybe that's depending on the person. Let's say if someone goes, dude, I get a 15-minute conversation with fucking Phil Anselmo. Here we go, record. You know what I mean? So he's gonna say some shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That would be worth the price of admission. You know?
Yeah. If I was gonna, I would, if it were me, I would shell out. I'd shell out some money for a couple of people. Yeah, I would. I really would. Maybe Stuart Copeland.
Oh, that'd be odd.
I would love to talk to Stuart Copeland. I would love to talk to Stuart Copeland but a lot of the bands that I really, really like, I can just send them an email. Be like, hey man, what's up with this thing?
That's why I take so much stock in having common ground or having a good icebreaker, because a lot of these guys have heard the same intro question. They've heard the same, like whatever happened to blah, or think about, like, again, not to get on it again, but like with Kiss, that in the 80s, so many people, so why'd you take the makeup off? You know what I mean? Think about that punishing motherfucking question. It's some dildo that's like, I'm just like, yeah, okay, you can't go online to see the other interviews we've had. You're not going to read every single magazine. So these huge bands that have this big legacy, like Alice Cooper, Kiss, Motorhead, Robert Plant, fucking even Stuart Copeland, because there's more to him than just drums. Like his fucking, like who his brother is and all that whole shit. It's just like, but you got to know what these motherfuckers haven't asked other people. So when it comes to that, it's just kind of like, well, I just won't bother. I remember when I actually fucking met Jerry Only and Dez, like back in 2003, 2004, when they played in Des Moines, Iowa, and I was doing security there, and they were in this little burrito shop or taco shop place that was right down the street, and I went in there to get like some nachos or whatever, and I'm like, oh shit, they're right there. I'm like, hey, and luckily I happened to have a friend. Me and Dez Cadena had a mutual friend, and I was just like, oh shit. And I told my mutual friend, I was like, yeah, I'm going to go see the Misfits. He goes, oh, cool. Tell Dez I said hi. And I said, hey, Dez, I'm not going to say it's whatever. It's not like controversial, but I'm just not going to use the guy's name just out of respect. And I said, hey, so-and-so says hi. He goes, oh, how is he doing? Blah, blah, blah. So me and Dez Cadena had a conversation about a guy that we were mutual friends with. Right. And I'll never forget that, because I'm like, this is fucking rad. And I'm a huge Black Flag fan. And then it was funny, not to sound shitty about it, but like Jerry wanted to get in on the conversation really bad, because he was kind of like bummed out that I was standing there while Dez was sitting at the table having a conversation with Dez, and Jerry was kind of like, well, why isn't anybody talking to me, kind of thing, you know what I mean? And it was really awkward, and so I was just kind of like, somehow we segued into a conversation about Glenn Danzig, and then I remember Jerry saying something about like, well, yeah, he's doing really good, and I'm happy for him, if doing porn and comic books is your thing or something like that. He just kind of brought, I'm just kind of like, it was real dismissive, because it was right around the time when Glenn was doing those shows with bringing Doyle on stage. Mm-hmm. And it was tense. And I was just kind of like, I don't know Glenn Danzig personally, and I don't, whatever, but somehow I got on the subject of it, and it just somehow Danzig got brought up, and I'm like, this is fucking weird. But regardless, I'm always going to have that, that memory of like, I got to fucking, talk to, one of the guitar players / vocalists of one of my fucking favorite bands ever. And then the fucking bass player of one of my other favorite bands ever. And it's just kind of like, and it didn't cost me anything. You know what I mean? But I had an icebreaker of, hey, me and you know the same person, and that's cool. Whatever,
Yeah, it's the sort of tips and how to not have shitty interactions with your heroes.
Yeah, and I really did. I actually had second thoughts at first. I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to leave him alone or whatever. You know what I mean? But it was just kind of like, whatever, and ended up having a really dude, Dez is just like a real chill old hippie. You know what I mean? And he was cool.
So that's it. Well, most of Black Flag are weird hippie surfer dudes. You know?
Dude, Chuck Zukowski, one of my favorite bassists ever. He is such a hippie. He could, just fucking, he's awesome. But yeah,
well, I just think just like Keith is the one I always think of. Just Keith, and just like
he's his own thing, man.
You know, man. It's just that
back with me and Black Flag. We didn't give a shit about any of this fucking shit and is going on. You know, I love listening to any interview with fucking Keith Morris, dude, because he's on all the time.
I can't do it. I just can't. I just can't do it, man.
The thing I love about Keith
I've got a couple off albums. I got a couple Circle Jerks albums, but
fuck yeah.
Every time I put one on, I realize why I don't put them on. Like I feel bad about saying that because I'm like, I don't like Circle Jerks. Yeah, I'm glad. I'm super happy that Greg went and played in Bad Religion for so long, because it means Circle Jerks weren't making more albums. You know,
wow.
I'm just like a huge dick about it, and I feel bad. Like, I want to destroy you. Well, turn that off.
Do you know what's funny? I've never heard that album ever. I love Group Sex. I love Wild in the Streets. I love Golden Shower Hits. Those are fucking phenomenal. And even Wonderful and Four are, good. Wonderful and Four are more or less just rock and roll albums, but it's just kind of like, I could see, okay, to me, Keith Morris is the Axl Rose of punk rock. I know people that hate Guns N' Roses because they hate Axl Rose's fucking voice and his personality through the 80s and 90s. I fucking love Guns N' Roses because it had that fucking element in it. And I love Circle Jerks because they had crazy ass Keith. You know what I mean? And it's just, but I mean, I understand why both sides of the coin feel the same way about it. But when it kind of comes to kind of back to our point right there is because it's just like when you you can't separate the art from the artist on some, on some levels. Yeah. And that's a whole different version of it. You know what I mean? Right. And like when you, as a band's going forward, as a fan of music and as a person playing music, you wonder what's going to go on in the future. Cause it's just kind of like, okay, well, the avenue to go is to give everybody all the inside scoop, or give them the fucking, break kayfabe for all your fans because we have no choice now because we can't fucking play shows like we used to.
Yeah.
And then when you get to know Bruce and you're like, fuck, man, I remember seeing Bruce, on Kissology, on fucking the Hot in the Shade tour. He looked so fucking cool. And then seeing him, and then you go, God, he's just kind of like this fucking this dude from Long Island with a cat that likes coffee and hanging out with his wife, And he's just like, I don't want to know Bruce anymore.
The romance and the presence that Bruce's wife Lisa has just in all things that Bruce does.
Yeah.
Is like, I'm so happy for them.
Yeah. I don't want too much of my favorite artist, to be honest with you. I really fucking don't.
Yeah.
And I hope, okay, it sucks that I never got to see Motorhead live, and it sucks that I'll never get to meet Lemmy, but in a way I'm glad that I didn't, because he's fucking Godzilla, he's King Kong, he's Frankenstein, and a fictitious character. I don't ever want to meet Gene Simmons or Paul Stanley because I can never meet them in 1977.
Right.
I
look, I've interacted with Paul, and he was uncomfortable with me on several different levels.
Wow.
I walked around I turned into the room or the thing, and Paul was standing there, and I went, "Hey, Paul, what's up?" And I had a Misfit shirt on, and I can tell that wasn't cool.
Yeah, he has a tendency to sort of like get triggered by some of the weirdest things.
Well, it's a holdover from the 80s when they were obsessed with being cool. They had to compete with John Bon Jovi and whatever other band, and they always want to be photographed with people that were either wearing Kiss shirts or, looked cool, that sort of thing. So, you're never going to have the interaction with Paul Stanley where you walk around, you turn the corner and be all like, you know, like, hey, Paul, what's up? Oh, I love the Misfits. It's like, no shit. How about the Circle Jerks? You know what I mean? Like,
nice raspberry shirt, Dustin. No,
right. It's just, yeah, it was awkward. I could tell he was awkward. But like, I was just like, hey, Paul, good to talk to you, man. Hope you're doing all right. You know,
we're never going to have a common ground icebreaker with Paul Stanley. Never. We're never going to, you know what I mean?
No, I would go straight for the throat. I know I would. I'd be
really?
like, can I see your ear?
Oh, fuck.
You know, I would immediately, I would just no punches pulled. You know, I'm just going to go.
Hey, what was up with the Coke spoon in 1976 hanging around your neck?
Yeah, what's up with your?
Was it a thing or your thing?
Rock and roll over Coke spoon, man.
Yeah,
you know?
That's a good place to stop for the fucking day.
Yeah. Was it snuff? Was that what it was? I was just thinking, because I was just thinking about the Circle Jerks. I laughed a minute ago. It was just, as I said, like whenever I listen to the Circle Jerks, I remember it's the same thing with the Dead Kennedys. Whenever I listen to the Dead Kennedys, I remember why I don't listen to the Dead Kennedys. And it's same thing with Circle Jerks, and you know, like getting to meet Keith Morris. You know, like hey Keith, hey, what's up, man?
What are you looking at?
And be like, you know, you could be like, hey, do you really like Red Cross, don't you? You know? Or, you want to listen to the Adolescents or Agent Orange, or just not your bands?
Do you get the feeling that like you're never going to be as cool as Keith Morris wants you to be when you meet him? You don't listen to Radio Birdman, and you know, like because I mean, I personally, I'm a huge fan of him. I love the fact that his musical taste is so vast, and he knows his shit about like old 50s and 60s music and garage stuff, and all that kind of shit or whatever. But like it's just kind of like he's an entity that's just kind of like I said, you're never going to be as cool as he wants you to be. You're never going to be on the level that he requires a person to be to really interact with him. You know what I'm saying? And I've noticed that there's even some people that I know from like some like lower tier bands that are somewhat successful that I'm just kind of like, this person is not going to be interested in talking to me at all. Or you ever had that thing where like, this person is a lot like me, right? I feel like but if me and that person are in the room, is there room for two of us? And what the fuck's the point of, of what the fuck is going to be good, any good for him to meet me or me to meet someone that's kind of like me at the same time? It's just, I've always kind of like, with groups of friends, I've got a real diverse group of friends. When I meet somebody that's in a band, I'm like, you're a space alien, you are a fucking sci-fi monster. Can I touch your hair? You know what I mean? It's just, you're not fucking real. But then when you're just kind of like, hey, this is just a dude, just, oh, okay, there's two guys. Oh, like, okay, like for one thing I was telling my wife about not too long ago was like, I don't give a fuck if somebody's straight edge. There's a lot of fucking people that are straight edge. I'm not going to become your fucking friend because you're straight edge. You can be an asshole and be straight edge. You can be fucking or whatever, or you can be a fucking huge Kiss fan and I'm not going to fucking like you. You know what I mean? So it's hard. So that's why I'm like, people go away.
Yeah.
I
just feel like if punk rock was an amusement park, Keith would be one of the big mascots walking around. And
oh, for sure, it'd be
like I feel genuinely bad. I feel genuinely bad when I'm all like, I don't like Circle Jerks. Please turn that off.
That's crazy. That's weird, man.
Like,
I mean, that's fucking nuts. I you know what I think also too is a big thing about Keith Morris is it's like I said with Axl Rose. For some people, it's like, fuck yeah, I love this. This is weird and cool. I like it. Or some people are like, fuck it, that sounds like garbage, turn it off. Or like, you know what? It's an acquired taste. After a while, I know people that like Axl Rose was an acquired taste to them, and like with me, when I first heard Motorhead when I was really young, I'm like, this guy can't sing. Fuck this guy. And then when I got older, I'm like, oh wow, he's rad. He doesn't give a shit. He's fucking sounding however the hell he wants to sound.
Yeah.
Man,
I'm all like, I like Henry.
Yeah. Well, dude, I mean, there was 16 different fucking singers for Black Flag, before they fucking landed on Henry. Well, fucking four.
There was only 3.
I mean, there's probably about 24 that we don't know about.
Are we going to count Mike Vallely?
Oh, let's not. I'm a fan of Mike V, but like that whole thing was no.
It's just funny. It's just funny with like one of your favorite bands, and you have to say to yourself at some point, go, this is bad.
Mm-hmm. Well, dude, okay. I love Revolution Mother, the band that fucking Mike V sang for. I love Mike V and the Rats. The band that he did, that shitty fucking band that he did with Greg Ginn, the For Your Own Good or whatever the fuck it was called. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh
yeah.
They were. Greg was doing double duty. He was opening and closing. It was during that period where Black Flag got back together. And
what was it called? Fucking Good Enough or This Is Good or some shit? But,
I can't remember.
To me, it sounded, the total like bullshit, like jazz discovery, fucking wankery going on on Family Man and crap like that or whatever. It was nothing but that with fucking Mike V trying to sound like Slip It In era Henry Rollins. It was such a letdown, man, because I love Mike V and I love Black Flag, and it's just, I don't know, but like I really wish the band Flag that had Keith Morris on vocals and Chuck Dukowski and Stephen Egerton and Bill Stevenson, that fucking project went out at the same time as just Flag, and they did awesome sets on YouTube.
That, so. It was better than anything that was going on.
Mm-hmm.
At least that album they did with Ron
called What Happened or What? Yeah.
What is this? What is this?
I think it's just called What Happened.
I don't know.
Okay.
But it's shitty. Mm-hmm. And the drummer was garbage. Which is funny because it was the same dude that was playing with Greg when he was doing Gone.
Okay, so it's not Pertzborn? It wasn't. Wasn't
No.
Okay.
The album was done with the dude that played in Gone with Greg.
Oh, okay.
They're towards the end of Black Flag.
Yeah,
and
Gone was terrible.
Brandon had came in when they got rid of him because it was all unanimous. Like, this guy doesn't know what the hell he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you watch footage from that tour that they did, and it's bad, man. It's bad. Like, he doesn't know how to end songs.
Ugh.
Like,
okay.
It's like, I don't know how else to describe it.
Should we have a Black Flag discussion in the future? Or
probably.
Do you think it would even be relevant?
I mean, it doesn't matter if it is or it isn't, but okay. I think we should.
All right. Well, I'm gonna have to call it because I gotta piss. Like an idiot. I drink water.
That's how episodes are ending now. John has.
Okay, I will make sure that I don't do that again next time. But
okay, it's fine. All right, we'll do a Black Flag episode next one.
All right, cool.
That works. All right. So buy stuff and watch videos from the bands that you like. Is that good enough? Does that work?
That's all you really can. It's all you can do now.
Yeah. Watch Bruce Kulick's amazing blog videos.
Yep.
You're phenomenal. All right. Okay. So that's another episode of Conversations from the Pit wrapping. Music, Lifeblood, something old,
something new.
Blah, 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 blah.
What are you listening to, Dustin?
Right. Wolfhammer. Still.
There you go.
Wolfhammer left and right.
Wolf Blitzer. Yes. Great band.
Gross. Hey, folks. Don't forget, you can support Music the Lifeblood by buying some of our shit. Go to teechip.com and check out the MTLB-ULTRA-MEGA-STORE. Tons of fun stuff. Coffee mugs, t-shirts, hoodies, all kinds of shit. So you look cool for once. All right. Fucking merch.